Okay, rule 2, first question. Before I begin, I want to give you just a little primer on how to use the electronic rule book that I've developed. This book is available to anybody in our association who has purchased a rule book. You cannot distribute it. You can't put it up on the web. That's a copyright infringement. But you can use it for your own personal use, and that's what I would suggest. And the way that this rule book is broken down is that all of these rules, sections, articles, they're all defined as headings. And in Word, headings are indexable. They basically create a table of contents. So if you want to go to Rule 1, click on Rule 1. There it is. There's the beginning of Rule 1. Rule 2, right there. If you want to go to Rule 2, Section 17, like we want in this particular question, scroll down. There it is, 17, and then Article 3, right there. And it deals with blocking in the back. So this is a really, really useful tool if you want to do rules study or if just for taking tests. I mean, I can't live without it because of making my videos. I need all of this information, and I copy and paste out of this thing all the time. I update this book every year with all the new cases and all the new rules. I can't guarantee it's 100% accurate, but you know, so far nobody's complained. So anyway, let's move on with the question. A block in the back is not legal by an offensive lineman against a defensive lineman, even if it occurs in the free blocking zone. So the only time a block in the back is legal is when it occurs in the free blocking zone. And the free blocking zone, and there's other conditions. It has to be against a defensive player who's in the zone at the snap, and the contact is in the zone. There's a lot of criteria to make a block in the back legal. One of those criteria is it has to be by an offensive lineman who are on the line of scrimmage and in the zone at the snap. So in other words, a defensive lineman cannot legally commit a block in the back, even if it's in the free blocking zone. Now, there is an exception to this, and that's if the defensive player pushes the offensive player in order to get to the ball or a runner. We're not going to call an illegal block in the back when a defensive player is pursuing the runner or a loose ball. But that's the only way they can get away with it legally. And it has to be a push. Okay? So, the answer to question number 1 is true. Block in the back is not legal by an offensive lineman, even in the free blocking zone. Okay, let's move on. All right, question number 2. R43, while straddling the sideline, catches a free kick, which is inside the sideline, results in a free kick out of bounds. So the rule references 229-229.3, which is Rule 2, Section 29, Article 3. A loose ball is out of bounds when it touches anything, including a player or a game official that is out of bounds. Now, when he says he's straddling the sideline, that means that he has 1 foot in and 1 foot out. And this question assumes that no one else has touched the ball. If that's the case, then we do indeed have a ball kicked out of bounds. Even though the receiving team touched the ball while part of him was in bounds, he is out of bounds by definition, and this ball is a free kick out of bounds and has all the penalties associated with a normal free kick out of bounds. So the answer to question 2 is true. Okay, question number 3. An invalid fair catch signal is any signal by a runner. And the rule reference is 29-4. It's right here. An invalid fair catch signal is any signal by a receiver before the kick is caught or recovered. And the three criteria for an invalid fair catch signal is that it does not meet the requirements of a valid signal. It's after the kick has been touched by a receiver or after the kick has touched the ground. So a receiver cannot commit a signal that is not clearly a valid signal. And a valid signal is the hand straight up over the head, waving side to side. That is the only valid fair catch signal there is. If you see a receiver, waving his hands, anything other than that valid fair catch signal, it's invalid. Now, what we're seeing in pros and college now is that the receivers will put both their hands together and point at the ground. That's legal. That's fine. There's no waving going on there. The other times that it's invalid is after the kick has touched the ground, he can't signal for fair catch, and also when the kick has been touched by the receiver. Now, you'll notice that the question asks about a signal by a runner. Well, all these invalid fair catch signals apply to a receiver, not a runner. And if you look at Article 5, an illegal fair catch signal is any signal by a runner. Okay? So a runner is someone who has possessed the ball. If we hover over this runner, a runner is a player who is in possession of a live ball or is simulating possession of a live ball. So this is after the catch. So this isn't an invalid fair catch signal. This is an illegal fair catch signal. And there's a difference. So, and it's penalized differently. So the answer to this question is false because it's not an invalid fair catch signal. It's an illegal fair catch signal. All right, let's move on. Okay, question number 4. K6 tries an onside kick from the K40. K25 touches the ball at Team R's 49-yard line. The ball rolls out of bounds at the R40 untouched by any other player. Ruling, first touching by R, first and 10 from the R49. And the rule references 2-12-1. So if we look at 2-12-1, it says during a free kick, which is what we have here, an onside kick happens during a kickoff, and it could happen from a safety as well. But they're both free kicks. It is first touching by, if the ball is touched in the field of play by any K player, which we have, before it crosses R's free kick line and before it is touched there by any R player. So what is that saying? So basically we know that typically K will kick off from the 40 unless there's been a penalty. So let's assume it's from the 40. And in this case, I believe he states that it is from the 40. Yes, right here. Okay, K40. So we know this is a kickoff from the normal spot. Now, K is not allowed to touch the ball between the 40 and the 50. If he does, it is first touching. And that's why we have a beanbag in our hands during kickoff, so that we can mark first touching. Okay. In this case, K25 touches the ball at the R49, so it's gone 11 yards. This is no longer in that 10-yard neutral zone and is therefore legal, and it's not first touching. And had he recovered it, it would be R's ball. But in this case, it rolls out of bounds at the R40, and it would simply be R's ball, first and 10, at the R40. So the answer to question number 4 is false. This is not first touching. Okay, question number 5. Targeting can only occur with contact to an opponent above the shoulders. Okay, and that's Rule 2, Section 20, Article 2. Now, this area of the rule book is really important. As all of you know, we are focused on safety, and there are many types of illegal contact with well, with the helmet and also with the forearm, the shoulder pads, etc. Let's take a look a little bit at just some of them. Butt blocking is when a player initiates contact against the opponent who's not a ball carrier with the front of his helmet. That usually happens at the line of scrimmage. We don't see it a lot. It's basically a player driving his helmet into the chest of another player. Face tackling is an act by a defensive player who initiates contact against a runner with the front of his helmet. Okay, I'm going to tell you that I've never seen that called, and if we have that kind of contact, I'm going to support you with the targeting call all day. Okay, if it's above the head, if it's above the shoulders, with the front of his helmet, I'm fine with targeting. It could happen in another part of the body, but again, a call that's very rarely made. Spearing is an act by an opponent who initiates contact against an opponent at the shoulders or below with the crown of his helmet. So we often see that with defensive players tackling quarterbacks. They will come in, they'll rush, they'll come in from the side, the quarterback doesn't see him, and the defensive player just drives his helmet straight into the quarterback's midsection. That is considered spearing. Okay, so a lot of talk not about this question, but I want everyone to understand the difference. Targeting is an act by any player who takes aim and initiates contact against an opponent above the shoulders with the helmet, forearm, hand, fist, elbow, or shoulders. Now, guys, commit that to memory. Okay, above the shoulders. Okay, commits a contact, initiates contact against an opponent above the shoulders with all of those different parts of his body. It's targeting. And this simply says targeting can only occur with contact to an opponent above the shoulders. So that is true, but that doesn't mean that all of the contact is legal. Okay, we just talked about spearing, face blocking, butt blocking, but targeting is the most common foul we see, and the other one we see a lot of is excessive contact to a defensive player. I'm sure we'll get into that later. But for the purposes of the test, this is true. Okay, question number 6. K, 4th and 10 at the K25. Excuse me. K8's punt is blocked. I'm hiccuping. He picks up the ball at the K16. Okay, so the K8 punter picks the ball up at the K16 and kicks it again. The punt goes out of bounds at the K48. The ball remains live when K8 recovers it. K8's kick is legal. Okay, so let's take a look at the rules. 224-4, 224-8, and 623. I want to show you guys something. A lot of times when I'm using this rule book, this gets real big. If I've got Rule 4 open and Rule 8, it can get real large. It's super easy. You just go right back to the beginning. You just right click in here, use the right mouse button, hit collapse all, and you go right back to the fundamental screen. Okay, so now I'm going to go to Rule 2 and Section 24 down here and number 4. Okay, I was looking for this rule before I saw the rule reference. Anyway, a scrimmage kick is any legal kick from in or behind the neutral zone during a scrimmage down. Either a place kick, punt, drop kick may be used. For a place kick, the ball must be controlled on the ground or on a legal kicking tee by a teammate. I don't know why the rule maker decided to reference this. This is just the definition of a scrimmage kick. And that's what we have here. You know, punt's a scrimmage kick. So kind of useless information, doesn't help us answer the question. And really, 224-8 doesn't help either. A punt is a legal kick by a player who drops the ball and kicks it before it has touched the ground. A punt may be used for a free kick following a safety or for a scrimmage kick. Again, does that help us with this question? No. So, your fearless leader went out and found the rule that does answer this question, which is 623. That wasn't included in the original test, by the way. You see how I'm looking out for you guys? And we go to Rule 6, Section 2, Article 3. Any K player may catch or recover a scrimmage kick while it is in or behind the neutral zone and advance unless it is during a try. Now, so this ball is behind the neutral zone, right? Ball started in the K25. It's blocked. It's rolling around at the K16, well behind the neutral zone. And that player can do anything legal that he wants. He can run with it. He can throw the ball. He can kick it again. Okay? It's not really clear. They don't go into it. But if you look at Reading, any of the other guides, it will tell you that this is legal. Okay, so the answer to question number 6 is true. Okay, question number 7. A 3rd and 5 at the B35. On a sweep, A67 contacts B55's hands below the waist. So this is an offensive blocker contacting a defensive blocker. And, guys, we miss this one a lot because, we watch Saturday football, we watch Sunday football. These kind of blocks occur all the time. But in high school, a block below the waist is illegal unless it's in the free blocking zone and it's immediate and all the other, we'll cover that later. But, outside the free blocking zone, a block below the waist is illegal. And if we look at the rule reference 237, blocking below the waist is making initial contact below the waist from the front or side against an opponent other than the runner. Now, good point. The runner can be contacted below the waist, right? Contact with an opponent's hands below the waist that continues into the body below the waist is considered blocking below the waist. Okay, blocking below the waist only applies when the opponent has one or both feet on the ground. And that's something to keep in mind as well. So the germane part for the question is right here. Contact with an opponent's hands below the waist that continues into the body below the waist is considered blocking below the waist. So we've covered that. So this is, it's not a legal play. It's false. But this one, this little blurb right here, this happened last year. And what it's talking about is a player who jumps into the air and is hit below the waist. That is legal, and keep that in mind. Don't ever call that a block below the waist. If he's in the air and he's contacted legally, by legal I mean he's not contacted with the crown of a helmet or something like that, then that contact is legal. Okay, so for question number 7, the answer is false. Okay, question number 8. A 3rd and 3 at the B36. So A's going in. They're on the opponent's 36-yard line. A12 throws a legal forward pass, which is possessed, in other words, caught, by airborne A87. So he is not on the ground. He's in the air, right? Inbounds. He's inbounds airborne near the B30 sideline. A87 is forcibly contacted by B92. We can assume that's legal forcible contact. and pushed so he crosses the sideline at the B31 and lands out of bounds. This is a completed pass at the B31. So let's take a look at the rule, and it says a catch is the act of establishing player possession. What's possession? A ball in player possession is a live ball held or controlled by a player after it has been handed or snapped to him or after he has caught it. So he can be in possession while in the air, right? Okay. Possession of a live ball which is in flight, which obviously this is. The ball is in flight. That simply means it hasn't touched the ground yet. And first contacting the ground inbounds while maintaining possession of the ball, or having forward progress of the player in possession stopped while the opponent is carrying the player who's in possession and inbounds. Okay, so this, I kind of hate this rule. It says, or having forward progress of the player in possession stopped while the opponent is carrying the player who is in possession and inbounds. This hardly ever happens. And what they're describing is a receiver who's airborne and a defensive player literally catches him in the air and then runs with him to the, till he's out of bounds. Okay, that just doesn't happen. I've never seen it. I've never heard of it, but it's in the rule. But don't let that confuse you with this situation where the receiver is up in the air, he's contacted in the air, and he lands out of bounds. That is an incomplete pass. Now, this question's been on the test for years, and it's because several years ago, we used to have the ability to judge whether a receiver could have come down in bounds. That was on the books for 3 years, and it was just too problematic. Now we've made it easy. If he catches the ball, he's contacted, and he doesn't land in bounds, it's an incomplete pass. Okay, so this question, it says this is a completed pass at the B31. That is false. Okay, question number 9. An outside the 9-yard marks conference must occur between the 25-yard lines in an 11-man game. For you new guys, this kind of questions make my head spin. What the hell is a 9-yard mark, right? In Rule 1, which covers the game, the field, the players, equipment, that sort of thing, it's defined in Rule 1, Section 2, Article 3, which is lines and markings. If we scroll down here to F, 9-yard marks, 12 inches in length and 4 inches in width, shall be located 9 yards from each sideline. I don't know about you, but I've never seen these marks. And that's because these marks shall not be required if the field of play is visibly numbered. If the on the field numbers are used, the tops of the numbers shall be the 9 yards from the sidelines. So we don't have 9-yard marks. We use the top of the numbers for this 9-yard mark. And so we have two types of conferences. We have an outside the 9-yard marks, which means towards the sideline, or inside the 9-yard marks. And there are rules specific to each type of conference. We're not going to get into that right now. But if we go to 262A, I even dug up a diagram. Oh, you piece of crap. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay. Look at this nice little diagram. Okay, 9 yards. See? Lining up with the top of the numbers. 6 yards from the bottom of the numbers. These are a really good diagram. Guys might want to spend some time looking at it. It's on sportsknowhow.com. And then we also see the team box, which you can't really tell here, but that starts at the 25 and goes down to the 25. So the team box is 50 yards from the 25s to the 25s. We don't let teams out of that area, right? They have to stay within that area. Coaches and players have to stay in that area. So, back to the original question. An outside the 9-yard marks conference must occur between the 25-yard lines. So, 262, we're going to go to Rule 2. Section 6. Authorized team conference. There are two types of authorized team conferences. Outside the 9-yard mark and between the 9-yard marks. So between the 9-yard marks means between the top of the numbers on one side of the field and the other. Again, confusing as hell. I don't know why they don't just say whatever. Okay, so outside the 9-yard mark conference, one or more team members and one or more coaches directly in front of the team box within 9 yards of the sideline. So that's telling you that it has to be between the 25-yard lines. It has to be on the field. They can't be off the field. They can't be beyond the sideline. And so the question says, an outside the 9-yard marks conference must occur between 25-yard lines in an 11-man game. That's true. I know it's confusing. If you don't understand it, make sure you clarify it with your white hat before the game starts. And when you see multiple coaches going out above the numbers, say no, coach, you can't do that. Get them below the numbers, and you have as many coaches and players out there as you want. But if you're going to go above those numbers, it's one coach only, and they're only talking to the team that's on the field. Okay? All right, let's move on. Okay, question number 10. And guys, pay attention to this one, because this is an easy one to screw up. And, we have so many rules regarding the goal line. We've got to keep them all separate. A, third and goal at the B7. So there's 7 yards from a touchdown, right? Airborne receiver A89 possesses a legal forward pass beyond the plane of B's goal line. B12 contacts A89, causing A89 to land on his knees in possession of the ball at the B3, ruling touchdown. Okay, so now you remember that previous question where we talked about a player being hit while airborne and going out of bounds, right? This is different. The rule says, and this is the rule regarding forward progress, and it's so important you guys understand this. When a player possesses the ball and then is pushed back in the field of play, the ball goes where he possessed it, not where he lands. Okay, make sure you understand that. He gets forward progress, and that forward progress includes the progress he made while he's airborne. So, when an airborne player makes a catch, forward progress is the furthest point of advancement after he possesses the ball if contacted by a defender. Okay, so and then it references the casebook 215-12. It's 1st and 10 for A at the B12 yard line. A sprints near the end of the line and button hooks. He jumps and possesses a forward pass while in the air above the end zone. In situation A1's momentum carries him back onto the field of play, and he lands and is down on the A1. So that you could imagine this scenario: the player's coming back for the ball. He jumps, catches the ball in the end zone, but then lands at the 1 yard line. Okay, nobody's contacted him. In that case, in A, it's A's ball, 1st and goal at the B1 yard line, because his own momentum carried him out of the goal, across the goal line. But in B, which is while in the air in the end zone, he is contacted by B1 and is carried out of the end zone and downed on B's 2-yard line, it's a touchdown, okay? Because we're going to give him forward progress. So the answer to question number 10 is true. Okay, question number 11. A, second and goal at the B5. A3 sweeps to the right end. At the B2, A3 dives and crosses the goal line airborne and ends up landing out of bounds beyond the goal line. He continues to hold the ball, and the ball crosses the goal line extended, ruling touchdown. Okay, so let's take a look at 226.3. Remember, Rule 2 is our definitions, and this is the definition of the goal line. So it says the goal line is the vertical plane. That's important. For you new guys, we treat the goal line like a sheet of water. And if the ball gets wet at all, it's a touchdown. Okay, across the goal line. You'll hear that often. Okay. Is a vertical plane which separates the field of play from the end zone. When related to a live ball in a runner's possession, that's what we're talking about right here, touching in bounds while the ball is over the out of bounds area, the goal line includes the extension beyond the sidelines. A team's own goal line is the one it's defending. Okay, so what this is saying is that if a player is in bounds as he crosses the goal line and he has the ball out of bounds, and we see this often a lot now in professional and college sports, guy's going right for the pylon. He just gets inside the pylon, but he's got the ball way outside of the pylon in the out of bounds area. That goal line extends outward to infinity, basically, as long as he's in bounds. So the ball has crossed the goal line even though it's out of bounds. But he has to be in bounds. And you'll notice in this question, he dives at the A3 and crosses the goal line in the air and lands out of bounds. So he does not get the goal line extended. And so this isn't a touchdown. And as officials, we have to decide where the ball intersected the sideline and place the ball there. And that's a tough job, but, you just got to do your best. But the answer to question number 11 is false. Okay, another toughie, another somewhat confusing question. The basic spot. Do we all know what the basic spot is? That's the spot of enforcement for a penalty. Okay? We will get into that later, especially in 8, 9, and 10. The basic spot is the spot where the run ends when the receivers, commit a post-scrimmage kick foul. Our fouls behind the post-scrimmage kick spot are spot fouls. Okay, so the first question is, what is a post-scrimmage kick foul? Okay, so if we go to 241.6, and here's another reason to use my handy-dandy little electronic book. You see right there where it says when a post-scrimmage foul occurs? If I click on that, it describes what a post-scrimmage kick foul is. It's a foul by R, other than illegal substitution or participation, when the foul occurs during a scrimmage kick play, other than a try or successful field goal, during a scrimmage kick play in which the ball crosses the expanded neutral zone. When it occurs beyond the expanded neutral zone, it occurs before the end of a kick, and K will not be the next to put the ball in play. So if there's a turnover and K is going to have the ball anyway, then we're not. It's not a post scrimmage kick foul. So if we go back to the definition, 241.6, The post scrimmage kick spot is the spot where the kick ends. Now you notice this one, the question says the basic spot is where the run ends. Okay, because the run could end, 10, 20 yards upfield, right? No, it's where the kick ends. And this is why we beanbag where the receiver catches the ball on a punt. Because that could be an enforcement spot for it's called a PSK foul, post scrimmage kick. Now, so this is false, but this last part of the question, if our foul's behind the post scrimmage kick spot, it is a spot foul. In other words, if the kick ends on the 40 and our foul's behind that spot, behind the 40, like say on the 30, we are going to enforce that spot, the penalty from the 30, not the 40. But generally speaking, PSK fouls are enforced from where the kick ends. And the kick ends as soon as the ball is possessed. We don't kill it. We don't do anything with it. We let the play out. But that beanbag is going to tell us where the enforcement spot is. Okay? So, part of this is true, but part of it's false. So that makes all of it false. Question number 12 is false. Okay. Question number 13. A 2nd and 5 at the B25. A18 is running at the B4 when B23 contacts him while his foot is touching the sideline. In other words, B23's foot is contacting the sideline, not the runner. A18 then reaches out with the ball and it breaks the plane of the goal line, ruling touchdown. So the rule reference is 229-2. If we go over here to 229-2, it says a ball in player possession is out of bounds when the runner or the ball touches anything other than another player or game official that is in or outside a sideline or end line. So, in this case, the defensive player is out of bounds, right? But the offensive player isn't, and the fact that the defensive player simply touches the runner does not make him out of bounds. So the answer to this question is true. Okay, question 14. I am not a fan of this question. It's too ambiguous. So if you got it wrong, you didn't. Don't worry about it. A 2nd and 10 on the B30. A12 receives the hand-to-hand snap and immediately throws a pass to A26 at the B34, who runs to the B26. Just after the pass is thrown, B62 contacts A12. Is that roughing the passer, which we have a first and 10, or is it a legal play, a 3rd and 6 at the B26? Now, the rule reference that he goes after is 232-11, which says a passer is a player who throws a legal forward pass. He continues to be a passer until the legal forward pass ends or until he moves to participate in the play. Now that's the most important part of this question is what is a passer? So a passer is a player who throws the ball. He has to throw it. If he's gonna throw it and he doesn't get it, doesn't release it, he's not a passer. Okay. But the ambiguity in this question is the contact. Okay. We do not want quarterbacks being contact after they've obviously released the ball. I mean, a small amount of contact, stuff that can't be avoided. If we see the defender letting up and he still makes contact, okay. But we are not allowing defensive players to punish quarterbacks simply because they can, okay? And I hope you understand that distinction. So according to the test, the answer is B, legal play. But I would caution you that it really comes down to what this contact involves. And if it's malicious, or if it's a continuation without letting up, that it maybe drives the quarterback to the ground, whatever it might be, you have a possible roughing the passer. Okay, I hope that makes sense. We can discuss that another time, but for the purposes of the test, the answer is B, legal play. Question number 15. Targeting can only be called if the player who is contacted is defenseless. Well, this is one near and dear to my heart. As you guys know, I've been preaching targeting, and we have videos on what targeting is. The rule reference is 220-2. Targeting is an act by any player who takes aim and initiates contact against an opponent above the shoulders with the helmet, forearm, hand, fist, elbow, or shoulders. Basically, any contact above the shoulders could be considered targeting. So you don't see the word defenseless in that definition at all, and it's not, and it's false. They do not have to be defenseless. There are other fouls carrying equal weight of 15-yard penalty for excessive contact on a defenseless player. And again, we'll talk about that later, but a defenseless player is a kicker, a receiver who's in the act of catching or just having attempted to catch the ball. Those are examples of defenseless players, and they are afforded a protection from an illegal hit. But targeting is different. Targeting is contact above the shoulders. Remember that. Initiates contact above the shoulder against the opponent above the shoulders with the helmet, forearm, hand, fist, elbow, or shoulders. And I'll add this to this. I'll stop. If the defender contacts a player, say he contacts him right here above the numbers, okay, and then so the initial contact is below the shoulders, but the upward thrust continues on up into the helmet area, that is still targeting. We don't excuse that kind of hit simply because the first contact wasn't with the area above the shoulders. If it carries through to the area above the shoulders, we've still got potential targeting. Okay? All right. So the answer to this question is false. All right. Question 16. A 3rd and 24 from the A30. A63 or 83 attempts to catch a legal forward pass at the A37. The pass is too high and has flown over his head. B92 uses his shoulders to forcibly contact airborne A83 in the back. Personal foul, targeting. Well, we just went through what targeting was, and what's one of the components of targeting? It has to be above the shoulders. So this is in the middle of the back. Is this a foul? It sure sounds like one to me. Let's look at 232. I told you we were going to get to this. 232-16. Defenseless player. Okay, so this is the excessive contact on a defenseless player. And again, read this definition. You should know this by heart. Defenseless player is a player who, because of his physical positioning and focus of concentration, is especially vulnerable to injury. A player who initiates contact against a defenseless player is responsible for making legal contact. When in question, a player is defenseless. That's important. Okay, so examples of a defenseless player include a passer and a receiver attempting to catch a pass who has not had time to clearly become a runner and intended to receive a pass in the action during and immediately following an interception or potential interception. So this is what those are the situations where this is number 3 comes, or C comes the closest to what we were talking about. He has missed the pass, but he's still in the act of catching, hasn't had time to regain his feet. So this foul is a foul for excessive contact on a defenseless player, but it is not targeting, so the answer is false. Okay, question 17. K 4th and 8 from the K30, so the kicking team's on their own 30-yard line, kicks the ball off the side of his foot. The ball lands at the K25, so it's behind the line of scrimmage, right? R86 picks up the ball and runs to the K10. R87 is flagged for holding at the K39. PSK foul, R 1st and 10 at the K49. Okay, so if we look at the definition of a PSK foul, it's a foul by R, which we have. When the foul occurs during scrimmage kick plays other than a try or a field goal. Okay, so far so good. It was a scrimmage kick play. During a scrimmage kick play in which the ball crosses the expanded neutral zone. Oops. Okay. And a foul occurs beyond the expanded neutral zone, which it did not. So the ball didn't go past the expanded neutral zone. The foul did not occur beyond the expanded neutral zone. Let's see. It doesn't really say if it happened, if the holding happened before the end of the kick. But obviously we haven't satisfied the criteria for a PSK foul. So this foul is not PSK, which would be enforced from the end of the kick, right? Instead, it is enforced from the spot of the foul, because the foul occurred behind the basic spot, which is the end of the run, which is the K10. The holding occurred at the K39. This is the all but one principle. So the everything's right here. R 1st and 10 from the K49, except for it's not a PSK foul. So this is kind of a trick question. The answer is false. All right, let's move on. All right, question 18. A 1st and 10 from the B24. A24 runs to the B20 where he fumbles. A62 pulls B77's arm in an attempt to recover the ball. Is that holding or is it legal? Okay, the rules reference is 2.3-4C, and it says an offensive player may also use his hands or arms when he is a runner to ward off or push any opponent. That's the old straight arm, stiff arm. During a kick to ward off an opponent who's attempting to block him. To push, pull, or ward off an opponent when the ball is loose. If he may legally touch or possess the ball, if such contact is not personal pass interference, a personal foul, or illegal use of hands. So in this case, that meets that C criteria. Him grabbing that guy's arm is not pass interference, a personal foul, or illegal use of hands. This type of action is legal. He could also push the B player legally. So the answer to question number 18 is that is legal. Okay, question number 19. A 1st and 10 at the A30. Airborne receiver A88 possesses a legal forward pass at the A41. He is contacted there by B25 and first lands inbounds at the A39. So we've talked about this situation before. We've got an airborne receiver possessing the ball. He's clearly caught it. He caught it at the A41 and is driven back in the air to the A39. 215.2 is the rule reference, and it's very clear. It says when an airborne player makes a catch forward progress is the furthest point of advancement after he possesses the ball if contacted by the defender. So if he's clearly caught it, and we're going to give him that forward progress to the 41. If he's bobbling it and ends up catching it, it could be different. It could be the 39. But in the way this is worded, it's definitely A, first and 10, the A41. All right, question 20, last question for Rule 2 test. Yay! A, third and 6 at the B22. A8 attempts a field goal by using a drop kick, but kicks the ball before it strikes the ground. The ball goes through the uprights. A scores 3 points. And we have two rule references, 224.6, okay, which defines different types of kicks. So this one defines a drop kick. A drop kick is a legal kick by a player who drops the ball and kicks it when it touches the ground or as it rises from the ground. So this is not a drop kick, right? Really, what is it? It's a kick. It's a scrimmage kick, right? So ball goes through the uprights. A scores 3 points. Methinks not. Since can we score a field goal with a punt, even if it goes through the uprights? So it says a field goal is scored as follows. Field goal attempt shall be a place kick or a drop kick from scrimmage, or a free kick following a fair catch or an awarded fair catch. That's a little bit, it doesn't happen very often. Don't worry about that part. But basically, field goal attempt has to be either a place kick, where the holder holds it, kicker kicks it. This one we see every day. Or a drop kick. Now, we don't see drop kicks very often. I think I've seen one. But it is legal. And if the ball went through the uprights, it would be 3 points. So this is not a drop kick. Therefore, it is not a field goal. It's simply a ball into the end zone, and it would be a touchback, and it would be ours ball on first and 10 on the 20. So the answer here is false. All right, guys, good job. I hope you learned something. This is the end of Rule 2, and we will be going on now to, I believe it's 3, 4, and 5. All right, see you soon.